Welcome to the Well Workplaces podcast, where we have authentic conversations with health and wellbeing leaders that are on a mission to inspire healthy change in the workplace. I'm your host, Tom Bosner, and today's Men's Health Week live event is proudly brought to you by Pinnacle Health Group, Australia's leading corporate wellbeing provider, who are on a mission to deliver 5 million health experiences globally. Now, to stay in touch with us for any latest events or upcoming podcasts related to Well Workplaces, you can click subscribe on Apple Podcasts, you can follow us on Instagram, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn, either myself or just type in Well Workplaces. Now, for those that are listening to this live in the audience, say hi and tell us where you're listening from today. We're streaming this today on LinkedIn and also on our community YouTube channel as well. And I'm joined today, of course, by special guest, Dr. Natalie Flatt. Natalie, how are you doing?
I'm okay today, Tom. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really good. I was just telling you that my wife's got COVID and I was just out earlier with my son, just playing at a playground for killing some time and entertaining him. Thankfully, I've dodged it to date. So yeah, kind of a nice example of juggling still at home whilst, and funnily enough, talking obviously about supporting men's mental health today in today's event. So yeah, it's all happening today, basically.
Yep, absolutely, Tom. And it's definitely a very big topic to my heart. I've got boys all around me. I've got, my two younger sons, I've got my husband and I've got my very stoic father, all at different lifespans, but all very important aspects in my life that, where mental health is really important. And there's been certain life events that I can see really affects them more so than my female counterparts. And it's really interesting to be able to not so much dissect that, but to be able to provide some solutions around that. Previously, for those who know me and has probably heard Tom and I have a chat, my previous world was child psychology for 18 years, where probably around 80% of my little clients that were under 12 were boys. And they were coming in and seeing me a lot with behavioural issues, a lot with quite high intense anxiety, a lot with ADHD and ASD, or maybe even so much undiagnosed at those times. And it was a really interesting insight into how boys manage certain things and what they do, and even looking at fast forwarding to that into the prison system and the level of male to female ratio is around 87% worldwide, more male incarcerations than females. So it's a really important topic, male mental health, and how we can combat that in modern society.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? The incarceration stats are probably, I didn't realize it was that, but it kind of makes sense. But very interesting, the fact that you're surrounded by men in your home life. You mentioned in the comments, I think, of this particular event, just your kids obviously are pretty out there and they're always active. Yeah. And was it your stubborn husband? Is that what you're calling?
Yeah. My beautiful stubborn husband who refuses to put sun cream on and then gets fried. And then I've got my father who, I think the last time he went to a medical checkup, he had a bit of a medical scare in COVID, which a lot of older people found themselves in. And the previous time he went to the doctor was when I was 18. So you can do the math, but that was, almost 25 years ago. So he, the stoicism, the impulsivity and the stubbornness, all those gorgeous men traits anyway, it runs rife in my family. And I'm continually on their backs about it.
Yeah. Because when I think of Men's Health Week or just men's health in general, the immediate thought for me is men not getting checked up enough medically, maybe not connecting with their social networks as much as women, and I could be generalizing here. And when I was walking out in the neighborhood before, I was just walking past houses and I could see a lot of people working from home in their front sort of office, and I felt like if I could take a photo photo of that image, my immediate thought was like, gee, that looks lonely, as kind of a thing. So I saw some middle-aged men doing that in my neighborhood, and it was got me thinking coming into this chat. Nat, I'm wondering, maybe a good place to start here is from you mentioned some of the key statistics earlier, but what do you think some of the real key issues are when you think of men's health? What are the key issues from your perspective?
Like it's obviously, it's the bare bone facts that we still can't ignore, isn't it, Tom? That you're looking at, from all the amazing work Beyond Blue do, that on average 1 in 8 men will experience depression and 1 in 5 men will experience anxiety at some stage in their lives. But it's probably more the fact that, that the blokes, they make up 7 out of 9 suicides or completed suicides every single day. Okay. So that the number of men at the moment who are dying by suicide is actually every year is actually nearly double the national road toll. And that's something we obviously really want to change. And, the amazing work at Headspace and Beyond Blue and Lifeline, they do extreme and extraordinary work there, but it's all that reactionary process. It's like, well, what can we do to not even get them near this end of the mental health spectrum in the first place? And that kind of comes into the way we look at society and the way boys are even brought up. I'm sure that you yourself and your beautiful wife Candace, like you've got a boy and a girl, you've probably seen that gorgeous difference of even how you you bring them up in there, where girls are probably more attuned to a lot more language, even in the younger times, where boys are, they're happy, they're doing the kind of thing, and they feel a bit more active, and so then they do that little bit more active, and it's because they've got that testosterone thing. We're doing all these kind of what's called myths at that time, where they're saying, it's because they're a little bit more boyish and a little bit more brute and whatnot. That's just their testosterone coming in at age 2 and all this stuff, where funnily enough the research is actually now showing it's not the testosterone that creates the aggression. Okay. And that's where we're getting a little bit more that we've created this modern society, is that for men that have more testosterone, that they're more of a man. Okay, so if they're more brutish on a footy field, or if they can go and sink 50 pints at a pub, that they're a man, right? And so that we kind of create this toxic masculinity, and that's where it's really called, and that's really used to describe this exaggerated masculine trait that we can glorify. This level of strength and this lack of emotion and this self-sufficient, I'm so self-sufficient, I'm dominant, and I've got this sexual virility, right? And, this, if men don't show this and these traits, it falls short of being a real man. And then, this overemphasis of these traits that can then lead to that harmful imbalance, the aggression or the sexual aggression or control, showing no emotion or suppressing the emotion and being really competitive, that you've got that lower level of empathy and that kind of that more entitlement, and you've got that chauvinism and the sexism that can come out in this. And yet we're told we don't like this in society, but then we turn around and we can tell our future leaders or our future boys, we man up, let's man up, or boys will be boys. Or if we do show that emotional vulnerability, or if men do show that, then that's unmanly. So it's a very confused society, isn't it, Tom? Is that we want to create this change, and yet we're still glorifying, the TV shows of I'm probably going to show my age there, but remember the Married with Children? What was it? Was his name Al Bundy?
Al Bundy.
Yes. Slobbish, chauvinistic kind of bloke, or the Homer Simpsons, who's just a bit of an idiot, and or then you go to the superheroes, that can do everything and that are everyone. Wow, that's an extreme. So do we either box a man into that or that? Well, where's the middle ground there? So we've got to make sure that we're changing, like the culture and the societies, and that's where I really feel that, that we can kind of work together, to change this consequence, because you're looking at a United Nations, like you're looking at the global study of homicide, and this was a few years back there, but the stats were 95% of perpetrators were men, but 79% of homicide victims were also men. So,
Yeah.
what's going on there? Like we've created this society that we don't talk because we want to be all buff, but yet the consequence is that when you don't talk, look at what's happening. The suicide higher, the level of aggression's higher, the more reporting. It's so. Let's have a look at these connections here and see if we can short circuit them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's all very interesting stuff. And when you said about, I guess kind of biasing the current and also in society and the current culture and how we bring that up in the home, the actual theme for Men's Health Week this week is building healthy environments for men and boys. So it's about how that foundation is laid in the home. But as you mentioned, what we sort of tell our kids, like basically before with my son, it was the comment from my wife was, not to throw her under the bus here, but it was like, we need to get this boy out for a burn because he's just like running amok and kind of he's like almost like a puppy. He needs to go out for a run. So it's kind of that, not meant, we didn't mean it to be like a biased sort of comment, but it kind of is if you think about it. And I guess we do make those judgments around girls and boys. And I certainly note that, as a parent with my daughter and my son. So it's quite interesting how you link all of those different stats there, Nat. I'm wondering, obviously there's some benefit to counter all that and to sort of address all those issues. Obviously talking about our feelings or our emotions as men is super important. I think we've come a long way, whilst we've sort of rubbished men there a little bit, in terms of, saying that they're stubborn and all that. I think we have come a long way as a society in having a bit more awareness around what we should be looking for. I definitely note that, men are a little bit more open than what they were, 10 years ago, that kind of thing. Tell us how talking about our emotions can help us and sort of the science around that. I think that'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah. I feel that language is the key, Tom. Language is the key to so many areas, and we all have our stressful days. Like we all have it. But, why is it that a man can't show their stress where women kind of have that outlet where they can go for a walk, they can go and chat to other people? And yes, the biology shows that we do use a lot more words in a day, but it's also about how we then express those words and how we articulate those words. And it actually comes down to what's called affect labeling. I just want to make a comment about how, yes, there is definitely a shift. Like the tide has definitely turned over the years. Years and years ago, I used to, in 2007, used to bring in the healthcare plans into schools and work with kids under the healthcare plan as a bulk bill service. And that was the same time as that the social emotional learning started coming in. So we're starting to see that, but I've made some very funny comments. I've heard some very funny comments from parents going, what are they coming home and talking about their feelings? Like, what is this? And I said, isn't that interesting? So even as a whole cultural, it's again, even though we need to start from the beginning, it's kind of also like our children are then starting to teach us and teach men in particular that it's okay for them to actually show their own emotions too. And so it's really interesting that you say that, Lenny needs to go out and have a bit of a run. Yes, we do see that boys have got a lot more energy to burn. There's still the difference in the biology and the makeup, but I can catch myself on the footy field, with Nate, my 9-year-old, and going, oh, get in there, get in there. Oh, good work, mate. Oh, you really gave him a bit of a push because he's taller, he's stronger, rather than going, wait a sec, I'm reinforcing that male kind of virility as well. And like, so it is something as a society that we do need to be really mindful of. Anyway, that aside, I'll come back to that in a minute. But, it's talking about the emotions, the science behind that, it's named affect labeling. And, that comes back down from when we were with the evolution. We're born with that fight or flight mechanism that created that survival in us. So, we saw the saber-toothed tiger, we saw the python, we saw whatever danger was coming our way, and our brain told us to either run or fight, right? And so that's where really the inception of our anxiety and our anger comes from. So they use both the physiological responses, right? So that's all we really needed to know. And as we started to evolve, we started to build language, and language can then also be found, or evolves then into the frontal lobe. And our frontal lobe is quite amazing, which looks at concentration, organization, decision-making, solution-focused strategies. But when we are in a threatened situation, obviously it's not the saber-toothed tiger, but it's something that causes anxiety or anger. This area here switches off. Okay, it's just about surviving that moment in time. And so we can create that level of disconnection, right? And so it creates a consequence that, if we then look at it in hindsight going, maybe we shouldn't have acted like that. And in male terms as well, because they can feel that to be that little bit more aggressive, that's where they can get themselves into a little bit of trouble, okay? So if we can then learn to stop and pause and actually identify, well, what emotion are we feeling right now? Okay, what is going on? Okay, so we're in a situation that's causing to be threatening, or that I've got a lot of things going on my plate. How am I feeling right now? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I feeling disappointed? Am I feeling rejected? Am I feeling overexcited or overstimulated? What am I actually feeling? And when you can even label not even one emotion, but even up to 3, what that ends up doing is that it actually shuts down or starts to slow down the adrenal response, because it's computing here to go, well, I'm not really in a danger enough to go, I need to become really anxious and run away or fight. Okay. I'm actually thinking, because I'm feeling like this, it will actually open up. It would reduce the adrenal response and then allow for flow into the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, to go, how else can I manage this situation? So it allows for different ways and different pathways to find solutions. And this is what we find in men's mental health, Tom, as well, is that when they only think there's only one solution to their problem and that solution doesn't work, they then find themselves in a difficult time, and we get further and further and further down that mental health spectrum into that area we don't really want to be in anymore. Yeah. And hence by completion, right? If we can stop and we can push it right up there, and the first time we can start to identify how we are feeling, and men and boys and everyone, right, can start to work on this now, even putting it on a fridge at home, putting it in your diary, putting it on the back of a toilet door, putting it on anywhere, even on like screenshots about how am I feeling right now, right? Those self-check-ins are going to be able to ignite and expand your emotional vocabulary to then be able to identify in a situation that you might find threatening how you're feeling. And if you can then identify that, the consequence is actually going to end up being different. Okay. And that can lead to a multitude of benefits for you. So there's the science there. There is actually that scientific explanation. And we can all start that. And kids are taught that at school now, to kind of create that level of impulsivity. Okay, that we see. That then used to lead those kids into my office straight up there with ADHD symptoms. Well, let's just strip it back. Let's get them to see how they feel right now. Yeah,
that's fantastic, Nat, and thanks for explaining all of that, especially the neuroscience and how the brain works. For those that are listening that are interested in learning a little bit more about that, Nat and I have actually spoke about affect labeling in episode 36 on the Well Workplaces podcast, so you can go into that, and we Nat details all the steps, but basically it is around asking that simple question, how am I feeling right now? And I must say, for men, that is a tricky one. I remember having our last discussion, and then I started getting the blank diary out and making a few notes. And granted that this was through the lockdown periods and all that stuff that happened over the last couple of years, it was really hard for me to kind of identify what I was feeling, but through repetition, you can certainly get there. And I guess in the labeling of the feeling is one aspect. It's also understanding what situation you're in the moment, and then what you're feeling, and linking the two together. That really made the difference for me, because I was able to see some patterns in how I was feeling and what sort of was going on in my life, or in the moment in the day. So that was a huge help. And I guess it's kind of like, in my head, it's kind of like mindfulness, but a bit of a simple version of it, because it's simply noting, it's asking yourself one question every day, before or after, at the end of the day, and just going, how am I feeling? Okay, cool. Because without doing that, things can slide pretty easily, and you just move into the next day, or you get distracted by the phones or the emails, and then you just end up in a bit of a stress state. Anyway, I'll move on.
No, it's so true, Tom, as well. And men like to be solution focused, and they like to find an answer. And sometimes, this is the first step to finding the answer. So if you really are those men out there that really want to know something, identify the emotion, and then it's like, how can I then deal with this situation? So it opens that area up for the best solution focused strategy. So it's still going to get you to the end, but it's going to get you to a lot better decision making process, and not the impulsive consequence.
Yeah, perfect. And I guess from a brain perspective as well, it's literally clearing your thinking, so you then can make a great decision. So that has great implications or applications at work as well, and obviously at home also. Nat, I was mentioning before, like, I feel like mental health, and men's mental health especially, there's been a lot of awareness. You mentioned that in schools, there's a lot going on there. My daughter comes home and tells me all the latest and greatest at school, and I'm like, well, I did not learn that. And awesome that you're learning all these different, the vocabulary around mental health and mindfulness, especially in primary schools. I'm wondering, from your perspective, what can we do what do you think, with how do we change the mental health tide for men? I guess, given that, my generation versus the generation before, it's been an incremental improvement in vocabulary in mental health. But obviously, as we look ahead, what can we do to set up future men for, better outcomes, and obviously lowering, ideally, some of those stats that you've pulled for today's session?
Absolutely. I think, it all starts with very much monkey see, monkey do, Tom. Like, as a behavioral psychologist, it's also important that we lead by example. And that's men and females, to lead by example for our little boys growing up, and our teenagers that are going through that difficult and confusing time, and the young adults who are out there trying to find the identity. And if they can then see that we're kind of, being able to focus on being, especially as a man, focus on being who you are, not just a man in Western, or what Western society perceives as a man. There is a fascinating movie, probably more so a documentary that was made in America a couple of years ago, which I employ everyone to watch. It's called The Mask You Live In, and it follows boys and young men as they struggle to stay true to themselves, and it is American, so while negotiating that narrow definition of masculinity, which Australia follows quite closely, as the bloke. And what if we don't want that to be that's who we are? What if we, because you can go into kind of that clique mentality that, we're down, we're watching the footy, so therefore we have to sit there and drink. Therefore we can't, our mates are there, so we have to go there. And, it may not be staying true to exactly what you want to do. So, don't be concerned with trying to find even, one or two times where your catch-ups with blokes might be away from TVs or pubs or something different. It could be a little bit more going for a hike, getting out in the forest, like doing something a little bit different is really important, and being able to bring along the sons of the world, or the nephews, or the neighbors, or the coaching, like being able to create a different environment that doesn't always have to constitute, well, this is what blokes do when they catch up. Because it's not always the case. So it's about breaking that mold. And this also then allows you to, because the stats also show that females have a greater life satisfaction than men. So really trying to find an area which is your purpose alignment, and take away and just creating that general neutral approach. What aligns with your purpose, and don't worry about what the male, the stigma or the social aspect of what constitutes a man is. What do you want to do? My son, for example, like he can be very sporty. He's built for it. But oh my goodness, he loves to cook, and he adores art, and he's so good at it. So what do? I cook with him, and I do a lot of art with him. My dad does a lot of art with him because that's what he loves to do, and he's very creative. So you could look at him and go, oh, well, and we get it. Oh, he's going to be a great footy player. He's going to be this. And so what if he doesn't want to be that? Like, why are we boxing him into that area right now? So being able to expand that and accepting that is really important, but also doing it for you as well, Tom. Like you could be into quilting. You could be anything you want to do. Like, it needs, because that will allow you to create your level of life purpose as well. Again, those self-check-ins are really important, but, have fun with dad dates, like do something different, that might be, fun with certain different people, and that creating that diversity with your friendships will then allow that expansion of creating diversity within, Lenny's relationships when he also grows up, and, just being able to create, different environments for your children, whether that be charities, whether that be if you can go on different holidays. We try to take the boys out and they choose different restaurants, and they have to choose different cultures. And then while we're sitting at that restaurant, we learn about that culture. So obviously I'm very much trying to create that equality and anti-discrimination of different races, creating that multicultural, but it's also just really important that they understand, and they have that empathy for that others don't always have it as good as them. So it's a bit of a lesson learned, and that's probably where that can be very important there. But just those relationships of all kind, not just boxed into that male box, is very important to bring kids up like that. Even just different sports, that's probably where I would probably really be focusing on a lot. And I think as well and as much as it pains me, and I can still hear it around, and sometimes can be really automatic, but, shifting your own language as a parent, and as a coach, stop crying, or, don't get up and keep going, so it's kind of like these boys, they have to pass a test of some description. Girls, they get encouraged to, show that femininity or what it's classed as femininity, but we've all got the same emotions, Tom. And why can't they all be still? I mean, we all know when we're happy because we can smile and we can jump around and we can be excitable, but that's these positive emotions boys and girls are allowed to show the same way. But why aren't they allowed to show the negative emotions the same?
Yeah. And I guess as well in that, that, I guess that sporting culture, I guess sometimes it is, that not harden up, but it's kind of that, get on with it kind of attitude, which if that's always the only thing that you're hearing, then of course that then becomes the mindset of the kid, which actually means then they're not expressing themselves. But yeah, I love what you've said about role modeling really and the father-son interaction or father-daughter. I really love the idea of having those different dates with your kids as well, like so that you in my case, daughter and son, so they get to, I dance with my my daughter, although I'm sure you can't picture that now, but she loves dancing, so I'm often in the lounge room at night having a bit of a disco with her, and my son puts dresses on and loves it as well. So it's kind of that just encouraging all sorts of activity, really.
Everything. Yep, absolutely everything. And they just gives them the ultimate time of being comfortable with themselves and builds up their confidence to whatever they want to be when they're older. That's we taking away and breaking down that stigma, that man does not need to have that like one size fits all kind of style. And that's where that environment is really playing. And we're all in this together. We all know that, like it takes a village to raise a child, but also it's just that social norms theory as well. Like, if you're doing this and, then you're talking about it with someone else at kinder or play or, or school, more often than not, someone else is then going to go, what a good idea. Hey, can I join you next time? So all of a sudden you're bucking the trend, or you're bucking the stigma. And that's what we really want to see also is to buck that. We also see, the movement, and it's great, the celebrities all coming out and especially in the male mental health of saying that they've had all these struggles. And I know mental health has got such negative connotation, but we all need good mental health as part of our whole well-being. And so it would be really good to be able to see, before we even get to anything, we're just having a normal day, because normal day can have a myriad of emotions during that day. And then to say, well, this is what we're doing. You know what? I'm feeling a bit off today. So I'm just going to go and, maybe, have a magnesium bath and read a book that makes me feel good about me and a little bit of a distractor, and, go and spend time with my family or walk around or, go and pick a nice flower or, whatever it is, because then that's also tapping into creating good mental health. And one thing with the celebrities, they're always coming at, excuse me, as a reactive approach. We need to focus on the proactive.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're fine. Now, Natalie, thanks so much for today. We've covered heaps in this discussion, and we've really gone from how to build that, great environment at home, also tackling what are the real causes around it, and also just affect labeling, which is a really good topic as well. So thanks so much for your time, and have an awesome day.
You too, Tom. Okay, chat soon. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.